there. Today we're going to discuss the topic of redaction. My name is David Von Thenen, and I'm going to be your guide today. For the agenda today, we will review the basics of redaction and cover some things you need to know to utilize it effectively. Then we'll discuss various real-world use cases. Next, we'll take the platform capabilities and apply them in a real-world example. Then we'll do a deep dive and cover some of the APIs as they relate to redaction. Finally, we'll cover how-tos, as in how to build applications and solutions using our SDKs, plus have tutorials and more resources you can take a look at. So let's talk about redaction. What is redaction? And more importantly, why do we care about it? Before we start discussing how to apply redaction to our applications and products, we need to define what redaction is. And according to Wikipedia, redaction is the censoring or obscuring part of a record for legal or security purposes. This could cover confidential information in the form of proprietary trade secrets. It could be personal or consumer data like a credit card number. So why do we need redaction? And maybe more to the point, what are we preventing when we redact documents, transcripts, audio, and video? One of the primary use cases is data or identity theft. If anyone's had a credit card stolen, you're going to know this one quite well. Next is preventing unauthorized access. This could be your login information for home or at work. You may work for a company that requires clearance as a part of your job, and preventing unauthorized access is critically important. Next could be privilege escalation. This is related to the last item, but it's getting enough access to something where you might be able to then elevate your permission level to something with even more access. And perhaps the most common use case is logging and archival. There's a lot of data that gets collected for debugging purposes, or even for regulatory compliance. For example, needing to keep records around for 10, 12, 15 years because of your industry. Having all of that information collected in the form of tracing or transaction logs, and for those to be available for review later, can expose someone to things like identity theft or unauthorized access. The topic of redaction is pretty straightforward because most people can relate to security-related concerns and why things need to be kept private. Now let's talk about some very specific use cases that can be applied to any domain or regulatory body requiring some level of privacy and security. So one of the most significant regulatory compliance laws out there is HIPAA, which stands for Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. You've probably heard about HIPAA before because it's talked about everywhere when filling out documents or forms relating to healthcare in the United States. But few people know what it's specifically protected and where that mandate comes from. There is a specific clause within HIPAA that establishes a privacy rule, to which I've linked to this slide and can be reviewed later. This privacy rule covers any physical, digital, or spoken word information and content relating to protected health information. Protected health information is any data or information that has the ability to identify you as an individual in the context of your medical care. When information is being collected, regardless of the media it's recorded on, there are two main clauses that speak to how personal health information needs to be redacted in these documents. The first is the Safe Harbor Clause, which explicitly calls out items of protected health information that must be redacted. That covers 18 identifiers of protected health information, which include things like name, address, all elements of dates, including birthdays, admissions and discharge dates, date of death, and etc. Social security numbers, medical record numbers, account numbers, internet protocol or IP addresses, and so on. And the second clause, dubbed expert determination, calls for the redaction of personal health information based on professional judgment. The formal definition is a person with appropriate knowledge of and experience for rendering information not individually identifiable. Another such use case is GDPR, which is the General Data Protection Regulation of the European Union. The biggest and most important tenet of the GDPR is the protection of consumers' personal data and the right for that data to be forgotten or erased. This is covered in 3 very defined and thought out articles. The first is Article 9, which covers the biometric attributes constituting personal consumer data. Article 15 establishes the right for an individual to obtain the personal data that is being collected. And finally, Article 17 covers the ability of an individual to erase the information being collected by that entity, company, or institution. Those three articles are pretty straightforward. To erase any personal data, I need to define what that data is and visibly see my personal data in order to carry out the deletion process. The GDPR also includes strategies for keeping your personal data anonymous and safe when records are being stored for later recall. Now let's talk about how we can apply the redaction capabilities on the Symbl platform to a specific real-world example. To start talking about a specific example, we need to create a scenario. In this scenario, we're going to be talking about telehealth. For those that might not be familiar with telehealth, that's receiving healthcare-related services by way of a virtual doctor appointment via a medium like video conferencing. During this telehealth appointment, a great deal of personal information is being shared between you and your healthcare provider. Since this care is being provided over a medium which can be and will be recorded, these virtual records might contain your social security number, your home or work address, or any kind of medical discussions with your doctor. If this telehealth appointment is taking place in the United States, these recorded video, audio, and text communications in this virtual appointment must be stored in a HIPAA-compliant manner. If this business requires payment for services rendered, they most likely are taking credit cards as the form of payment. This means they are bound by PCI DSS compliance standards, or the Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. And if this business is located in California, it would be bound by the California Consumer Privacy Act, or the CCPA, and would need to comply with those regulations as well. Using the Symbl platform's redaction capabilities can help with removing or obfuscating personal identifiable information, payment credit card information, and protected health information. The platform provides you the option to redact all or a subset of these entities when the transcript is obtained. For those things not covered by PII, PCI, or PHI, you can define your own custom entities and then selectively redact those entities as well. Trackers can help handle the expert determination clause, which we'll cover next. These are topics requiring additional scrutiny or judgment that may require redacting. Since the Symbl platform provides many of the redaction capabilities natively out of the box, we will talk about a slightly more complex requirement in our telehealth scenario. One of the requirements for HIPAA that will require redaction is expert determination. We're going to look at how we can apply other capabilities of the Symbl platform to meet this regulatory requirement. Let's say our telehealth appointment is specific towards genetic counseling, and we're discussing issues with genetic markers that are extremely rare enough that it could potentially reduce the pool of people so that an individual can easily be identified. In order to keep this individual's personal identity private, we might have to redact this information. We could create a tracker containing the vocabulary that captures rare or exceptional genetic markers. When this tracker gets triggered, we could automatically take action to create a bookmark in this conversation, flagging reviewers to revisit this point of possible compliance violation with human eyes, and then take additional measures to redact this personal information. From that point forward, we could query for specific bookmarks in all conversations to trigger this review process. This is a very specific scenario, but it showcases the ability to use other capabilities of the platform besides our redaction feature that could be used to keep personal information safe. Now that we've gone over some of the capabilities, let's go ahead and do a deep dive and look at some APIs relating to redaction. All right, we're going to take a look at the redaction API for the Symbl platform. We're going to do that using Postman. We have a fork of the Symbl workspace, which contains all of the async APIs for the platform. Before we get started, I'm going to set my environment variables right here in the upper corner. And this is going to effectively set my app ID and app secret. And in order to exercise any of the async APIs on the platform, it's going through 4 easy steps, right? The first one is we're going to do an authentication, which we talked about previously. The really cool part about Postman is that the environment variables are going to fill in my app ID and app secret. We're going to post to OAuth2 to generate a token. The token basically lets me know that I've authenticated with the system. And next, we're going to need to provide a conversation in the form of audio. In this case, I'm going to upload a file to the Symbl platform. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and listen to what that audio file sounds like. We're going to have a small conversation here, which I'm going to introduce myself and then give my telephone number. Obviously, I'm not going to use my real phone number, and what we're going to do is redact the phone number. Let's go ahead and give that a listen right now.
My name is David. My phone number is 949-123-4567. Thanks.
So it's a pretty straightforward conversation or audio message, and I'm going to go ahead and upload that right now to the platform. I'm going to hit post audio, and in this case, we're going to post to the V1 process audio. We're set to binary. We're going to select a file to upload, and in this case, it's phone number.mp3. I'm going to go ahead and send that to the platform. After we send that to the platform, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take that job ID and we're going to check the status request on that to see if it's still in progress, which it is. So we're just basically doing a get job status. We're going to query it one more time. Now that the job's completed, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the transcription for this conversation. But we also want to do redact the phone number that we had in our conversation. So in order to do that, we're going to augment or change this get call to the Symbl platform. As you recall, get messages, which effectively is get the transcription for this conversation, but we're going to append a query string to it, which is basically redact everything, which is what redact equals true. So redact everything excluding the person's name. So my name in this conversation. So if I get the transcription with this redaction query string appended to it, you can see the transcription of the conversation below. It basically has my name there, which is good. And then it has the phone number, which is redacted. So it's been removed from the conversation. And you can see that in the entirety there. To recap, the asynchronous API is a 4-step process. First, you log in, then you either post or link out to a video or audio to process. Then you poll for job status completion. Finally, you call the transcription API to obtain a transcript with redaction enabled. Here is a look at our redaction setting API, where you can redact a subset or a specific entity classified as personal identifiable information, personal health information, or etc. The last thing I want to take a look at is the how-to. We will be taking a look at the SDKs, tutorials, and finally offer up some resources for people who are looking to dive deeper into code to take a look at. So for the redaction demo, we're going to do the redaction of the conversation that we used in the previous demo, but we're going to actually do this using SDKs rather than APIs. So the previous demo, we looked at the APIs and saw what was involved in order to do redaction. Now we're going to take a look at the SDKs and give a couple of examples of how you're going to go about doing that. The first one we're going to do is in JavaScript. You can look at the Getting Started Samples repo. If you need a link to that, you can find that at the end of this presentation. So in order to exercise the redaction of the same conversation that we did in the previous demo, it's pretty simple. You just go run examples, async upload, and redaction. And if you execute that command, you are going to upload that same MP3 file to the Symbl platform. Again, this is using the JavaScript SDK. It's going to upload the phone number, and for the redaction, you're going to see that we're taking the conversation, the transcription for that, and we're redacting the phone number out of the conversation. Likewise, for the Go SDK, if we want to run the redaction example, you can get the Go SDK off of the community GitHub repo, or you can find a link to this at the end of the presentation here. But to run the redaction example, all you need to do is go into examples/redaction and then go run redaction.go. This will upload the same MP3 file to the Symbl platform, except do this in Go. We're going to have a lot more debug output so you can see what's going on. But at the end of the day, you're going to see the phone number get redacted. So if you see the final output here, right, we're getting a transcription, but we're going to redact portions of it. And as you can see here, you can see the phone number is redacted off of this transcription. And again, if you are interested in the Go SDK and this example, you can go ahead and find the link at the end of this presentation. Thanks a lot. For a recap on the how-tos, you can recreate everything done in this demo using the information contained on this slide. This will enable you to run the redaction example in JavaScript and using the Go SDK. Here are some additional resources: the Symbl platform documentation, the API Explorer, which offers an excellent way without code to explore the platform's different capabilities. As always, you can reach us in our Slack community with any questions. Go ahead and drop me a DM to talk about anything that you saw in this presentation. Thank you for watching this presentation. Again, my name is David Von Thenen. If you want to discuss anything further, you can reach me at my socials at dvonthenen on Twitter and LinkedIn. Thanks again for watching.